So interesting stuff. Anyway, there's a lot to get to. Let's get to it. First, we'll start with Ukraine in Canada. Zelenskyy in Canada, while the Ukraine's at war, I mean, he's got to get out there and he's got to fundraise for the war, right? That's what Zelensky's job is or something like that. But people have caught on. Every time he shows up, Canada promises more money, and we're not interested in any more money. We're not interested in spending any more money in Ukraine for any reason whatsoever. And people are communicating their displeasure with all of this. Here is Zelenskyy arriving in Toronto and people saying, hey, you bum, get out of our country. Here we go.
Get the hell out of our country, you two bastards! Stop the war machine!
Where's the little traitor? Justin, where are you, you little traitor? We're not going to be impoverished anymore. We're not going to be censored anymore. We're not going to be poisoned anymore. We're choosing freedom. They spend all this money on this gala tonight. How many people are starving in the streets of Toronto? The food banks can't keep up. Homelessness can't keep up. Migrants that come to this country for a better life, where they're putting the park where they're putting on the street corner. This man's an anti-humanist. He's a criminal.
So enough protests. People are fed up. And what does the tweet say? Cat Canada says, Trudeau and Zelenskyy are met with angry protesters. Get the heck out of my country, you two bastards. I wonder if the little man thought he'd be welcomed as a hero. Who knows? And BUAC says, Trudeau and Zelenskyy are now being ripped on by Canadians. And these politicians are an embarrassment. I'm paraphrasing. This I just thought was hilarious. That's Chrystia Freeland giving Zelenskyy a she loves him. She loves him. It reminds me of how Trump looks when he hugs an American flag. You've seen Trump hugging an American flag, right? Eva Chipik is pointing this out. She says, I'm not sure what to make of all this pomp and circumstance in the House of Commons today with the Ukrainian President Zelenskyy. Is there not a brutal war raging in the Ukraine? How does this display in the House of Commons help bring this war to an end? What do you make of this? Joe Blow says the little warmonger Zelenskyy gets a standing ovation from every single MP as he enters the House of Commons. Canada's Uniparty is on full display for all to see. They're all the same. If anybody thinks that the funding of the Ukraine war will be different under Mr. Poilievre, I fear that that's a misguided expectation. I don't think that that's going to happen. I think he's in here standing too. Here we go. Extended applause, right? Do you think that Mr. Zelenskyy deserves that? I don't. To be very, very clear, I'm not on the side of the NATO expansion. I'm not on the side of the NATO aggression. The whole narrative of NATO and Ukraine are responding to Russian aggression, I think, is mischaracterization of what actually happened. I think NATO expanded against agreements made in the 90s. And I've heard this is a right-wing trope, but they're going to say everything that is true is a right-wing trope. So it doesn't matter. I don't care. Regardless, I think that fundamentally the people being victimized here is Russia. And what Russia is doing is well within their jurisdictional and territorial rights. Personally, I think that that's accurate. If it's acceptable, and it wasn't, that the United States waged war in Afghanistan and Iraq for your freedom, comrade, then Russia being preemptive and dealing with Ukraine, Bakhmut, and all of the rest of it. And there were extremist elements in the Ukraine embedded, et cetera, et cetera. But these guys are all acting as if none of that is true. And they're utilizing our tax dollars and positioning Canada in a position that, and I mean, it's aligning with the United States. And I think the US is wrong too. So it's not just Canada, but it's worrying that all of these people are willing to play this game and shake hands. And I mean, here's Jagmeet Singh, right? Talking about shaking hands with Zelenskyy. He says, I had the honor of meeting President Zelenskyy during his visit to Ottawa today. His fight and the fight of all Ukrainians inspires and humbles us. New Democrats will always stand up for democracy, freedom, and sovereignty. Ukrainians deserve peace. No, I mean, like, sure, people deserve peace. Yeah, great, make peace. We'll stop giving you money for war, and you go back and make peace, and then boom, everybody's happy, right? But I fundamentally want to stop giving you money for war. I hope you make peace, because that seems like a quicker path to ending all of this. But, it's not up to me. It's your country. Wiretap Media says moments ago, Vladimir Zelenskyy called for an all-out war against Russia in the House of Commons, and all 338 members of parliament and everyone in the gallery applauded to his call to action. Your government doesn't care about you or your family. It's time to wake up, Canada. I think that's right. This sends a very bad signal. This sends a signal like we're with Ukraine till the end. And they keep saying we're with Ukraine to the end. And again, I keep asking, what does that mean, really? Because I'm not interested in spending any more money. I'm not interested in instituting a draft or anything like that. What do you mean, victory against Russia? Because it just doesn't seem likely at this point in time. And I think that we're in the wrong for attempting it. So I think we're in the wrong for funding the war. I think we're in the wrong for sticking our nose where it doesn't belong, regardless of our derelict responsibilities of funding NATO, and like our obligations to NATO, et cetera. I thought NATO was a protective alliance, not a let's wage war on Russia alliance, right? And so if NATO is stepping outside of its mandate to go wage preventative wars on our behalf, maybe we should not send any money to NATO at all, right? Like there's a whole bunch of things that I have a huge, huge issue with. And just playing along and like shutting my mouth doesn't seem like me. So it just seems wrong, right? It seems like all of this is based on false pretenses. And at what point is Russia going to have to respond? And that's not great. You know what I mean? So here is the video of Vladimir Zelenskyy saying we should, destroy Russia and stuff.
It is genocide what Russian occupiers are doing to Ukraine. And when we want to win, when we call on the world to support us, it is not just about an ordinary conflict. It is about saving lives of millions of people. Literally, physical salvation. Ordinary women.
When he said physical salvation, it just reminded me of Greta. Like just the way she mugs the camera, and I don't know, the facial expression too. They kind of look alike. There's a very similar, like Greta and Zelenskyy could be cousins.
And men, children, our families, whole communities, entire cities. Russia's destruction of Mariupol, of Volnovakha, or Bakhmut, or any other city or village in Ukraine must not go unpunished.
Apologize. He didn't say that we needed to destroy Russia. He said Russia's genocidal and their destruction of our cities cannot go unpunished. Big claps. Really? Really? Honestly. And it's wild. And I just wanted to show you that, yes, indeed, here's Andrew Scheer, and here's Pierre Poilievre, standing ovation. Here's Justin Trudeau, standing ovation. Okay? Poilievre. Right? So just making sure everybody understands what's going on. Just also making sure everybody's seen Star Wars and understands exactly what's going on here. This is the moment Padme realizes that the entire galactic Senate has been manipulated by the Emperor. Okay?
In order to ensure the security and continuing stability, the Republic will be reorganized into the first galactic empire for a safe and secure society.
So this is how liberty dies. With thunderous applause.
Right? Jeepers Creepers. She was in V for Vendetta as well. So, predicted for your safety, comrade. Melanie Joly says Canada stands with Ukraine, right? That's why we're supplying $650 million in armored vehicles, $500 million in military assistance, $34 million in development assistance, including mental health support. Oh my gosh. I know what's wrong with you. You might be the other gender. That's what you said to the last 10 people. It's just hot right now. Sanctions on 63 Russian individuals and entities, $8.3 million in peace and security efforts. $650 million. Hold on, just to make sure we're really clear on this. $650 million in armored vehicles, $500 million in military assistance, $8.3 million in peace and security efforts. We really want peace. We really desperately want peace. Here's $8 million for peace. Here's $1 billion for war. We want peace. Here is the response to all this. Ryan says, imagine if Canada stood with their own veterans the way they stand with Ukraine. Here's just a reminder, flashback to Justin Trudeau not that long ago.
Is Canada turning its back on me?
On a couple of elements you brought up. First of all, why are we still fighting against certain veterans groups in court? Because they're asking for more than we are able to give right now. They are asking.
But look what we found under the bed. We got this $1 billion to give to Ukraine because they're fighting for our freedom in Ukraine. Yep. Here is Majid, and he says, Zelenskyy just invited Marina Abramovic, and she's the spirit cooking lady, to become an ambassador for Ukraine, which according to BBC is a child organ trafficking hub. Abramovic is not Ukrainian. She's Serbian. So why do you think Zelenskyy did that? And so he said, will she be spirit cooking? Oh, I thought she said spirit cooking dinner. And I thought that was kind of a funny tongue-in-cheek way to do it. She did not say that. She went a little further. Okay, here, this is funny to me. This makes me laugh because it's so obviously connected, but it works in political circles because there are a lot of low information voters, people who just want acknowledgement, I guess, people who will like statuses like this. Jagmeet Singh says to Hindus across Canada, this is your home and you deserve to be here. Anyone suggests otherwise does not reflect the values of inclusion, compassion, and kindness we hold close as Canadians. And Paul Mitchell says, I find this post by Jagmeet quite interesting. My impression is that he's getting very nervous that he has personally alienated Canada's Hindus. From that ratio that I see in the comments below, it doesn't look to me like Canada's Hindus are buying what Jagmeet is selling. I agree with that. And here is the reason why. Sabrina says, Canada allows transnational gangs to operate with impunity, war criminals to more or less hide in plain sight, and those deeply intertwined with authoritarian regimes to act as they please. It's no surprise foreign interference boldly continues enough. And here's the article highlighting this, and it's got a Khalistani referendum banner that was put up at a Sikh temple I think it's in Burnaby, but this is in a Gurdwara. Sorry, I guess this is a Sikh Gurdwara, and in Surrey it says the Surrey Gurdwara. And so this is the guy who was killed, who was trying to establish a Khalistani state. I think the guy who was killed is actually on this banner here, and he's trying to create the same conflict in Canada, or I don't know if it's a competing conflict. Like we want this in Punjab, like we want this land space in Punjab put out for Khalistani Sikhs, or if they're arguing for the land to be here and there. You know what I mean? Why not have two? You know what I mean? Like, so it seems interesting to me that Jagmeet Singh is a part of this Khalistani group, and in light of all of this, and so there are battles, very, very old battles about these two groups, and in India, people play politics with that, because if you're a Sikh politician, you don't want to alienate your Khalistani voting bloc group, so maybe you stay silent about their tactics that you disagree with, right, in order to make sure that they vote for you, right? And in India, I guess that's seen as bad, right? As I've come to a couple of the clips that I've been watching, it seems like they have a word for this. That's part of the discussion, that's like they call it vote blocking or something to that effect. And so to me, that's interesting that politic, that conflict is being brought to Canada through Jagmeet Singh and Justin Trudeau relying on Jagmeet Singh for the vote, Jagmeet Singh being a part of the Khalistani group, and India knowing that and saying, you're sheltering terrorists, right? And that's interesting. That's all interesting to me. Very, very interesting. Oh, this is not the right one. It is the right one. I was wrong. Pierre Poilievre weighs in on the Hindus as well. He says every Canadian deserves to live without fear and feel welcomed in their community. In recent days, we have seen hateful comments targeting Hindus in Canada. Conservatives condemn these comments against our Hindu neighbors and friends. Hindus have made invaluable contributions to every part of our country and will always be welcome here. Now, is Pierre Poilievre seeking or sensing a weakness because of Jagmeet's stance on Khalistan, and he's trying to open the door, right? And Mr. Poilievre has been campaigning and has prominent Sikh members of his conservative conservative cabinet, shadow cabinet. So that's interesting to me. How many of them, and even in the Indian coverage, the people are talking about most Sikh people are very reasonable people, just like most Christian people are very reasonable people. The extremists make up a very small group of that reasonable group of people. So it's interesting to me, is this trying to pick that up from the NDP, from that conflict, or is this trying for Mr. Poilievre to double down on a group that he has been courting anyway, right? He goes to Indian harvest festivals. He talks about Indian farmer conflicts. He goes to there's footage of him on tractors at a plowing match with, I guess, Sikhs and Hindus. I'm not sure exactly which one, but it doesn't really matter, except in the context of the Khalistani conflict, right? So is that trying to paper over it or not, right? Or just pick it up? Is it a calculation, or is it trying to fix something? I'm not entirely sure. It's interesting though. And Terry says, oddly, not much attention is paid to this. So in the India conflict, Justin Trudeau says he has credible evidence that India and the government of India had a hand in killing somebody, and on Canadian soil, Canadian citizen on Canadian soil, right? But he's wanted in India, wanted internationally, I think. And there were lots of concerns about the status of him because he entered Canada illegally and his citizenship was rejected twice, at least. So it's interesting, all of that. And Justin Trudeau comes to the House floor on the House of Commons and makes these very, very explosive statements. But at the same time, foreign interference, the RCMP investigate the death of a BC man targeted by China, and nothing, right? Like, there's a BC man dead, targeted by a foreign government, China, and I mean, there's no international incident. There's no Trudeau making an announcement very, somberly on the House floor, right? Like, nope. Did he even make an announcement when the two Michaels were confirmed to be held prisoner by China? I don't think so. I mean, he probably did, but I don't remember it. Maybe I do, but I don't remember him being a strong man about it. You know what I mean? So, like, we'll get them back and we'll do anything necessary and blah, 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 blah. Whereas clapping for Ukraine beating Russia in a war seems silly, seems very silly. It seems like bad diplomacy, similar to accusing India of killing a guy on Canadian soil. Even if you have the evidence, and if you have the evidence, you should make it public. But even if you had the evidence, you should probably do that privately. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful